Showdown. Great to have your company on the W Show. Thanks, of course, to NAB as we count down to round 6 of the AFLW Season 7. And along for the ride this week, award-winning journalist Sarah Black. Sarah, welcome to you.
Thanks for having me, Nat. Halfway through the season, I can't believe it.
I know, it is absolutely flying. And of course, on the couch alongside Sarah is Collingwood co-captain Bri Davey. Bri, great to have you back.
Thank you, Nat and Sarah. It's great to be on.
It's great to see you, and we'll chat a little bit more about the Pies in a second, but how's your rehab going? I know you had a clean out about 6 weeks ago of the knee. How are you tracking where you're up to?
Yeah, getting there. It's a slow process, but about 7 and a bit months now, and like you mentioned, the clean out, which sort of really refreshed my rehab and my knee, and
awesome.
yeah, I've sort of flown the last little bit, so yeah, looking forward to hopefully when I can get back playing, which unfortunately won't be till next season for me, but yeah, just ticking the boxes.
Doing a bit of boxing there with your brother as well. How's that going?
Yeah, it's been awesome. Just mixing up the training. I think sometimes rehab can become pretty tedious and a bit boring at times, so mixing up the training. But yeah, if anyone needs to sweat up in a boxing sesh, hit my brother up at Nathan Davey _ on Instagram.
I like it.
Very smooth.
Sarah, I reckon we could do with a boxing session or two. We might have to join Bri for one of those. Let's get to what's making news this week, because it has been a very, very busy week indeed with the NAB news, and we've had a game moved to Punt Road Oval because of the condition of Arden Street, which is a bit of a shame, but that Roos Swans game now in a different location. The first ever AFLW Showdown clash to take place on Friday night at Adelaide Oval. Cannot wait for that one, but the big news this week is the suspension of Georgie Prespakis. The Cats, of course, took it to the tribunal on Tuesday night. Her 2-game ban for a dangerous tackle was upheld. She is currently leading the coaches' votes and is now ineligible, Sarah, for the AFLW MVP award, and we know that Daria Bannister also tried her hand to get out of that sling tackle. That 1-game suspension also banned as well. So I wonder, have you noticed what I've been noticing, Sarah? And that is, across the first 5 rounds, I feel like there have been an enormous amount of sling tackles that have been going around. What have you seen?
Yeah, I've definitely noticed it too, and I reckon there's a few different factors at play. You know, as always, there's never just one issue. Now, this is we just saw these are the 2 suspensions that have just happened. You know, I do think the game is just a little bit faster, so it's seeing players come in with a little bit more momentum. There has been different. It's obviously a grey area in football in terms of adjudication. So there's different views on what does constitute a dangerous tackle.
I mean, some of these look quite shocking to me. And they're just reprimands. Most of these have been free kicks as adjudicated by the umpire, but perhaps maybe some inconsistencies when it comes from the match review officer side of things. Yeah,
so there's different things they look at. Are the arms pinned? Are there 2 actions? Is it a driving motion, a dumping, slinging? Spinning was the one that got Daria Bannister earlier this week at tribunal. That was the real emphasis in terms of her suspension. But there's definitely seems to have been an uptick, Bri.
Yeah, definitely. I think you hit the nail on the head too, Sarah. Like the speed of the game, and teams talk a lot about pressure now and getting up at the opposition as quickly as possible. Yep. So I think it's just that thing of they're doing what they're being told and what they're being trained to do, but then controlling the tackle is something that they're not quite executing as much this year, I don't think.
As a player, I mean, you obviously know the duty of care is with yourself. I'm curious to know whether clubs train tackles and are taught how to tackle correctly. I'm not sure what happens at junior level, but certainly a very long time ago when I was a junior, we didn't get taught how to tackle, and at local footy level, for me, I know we didn't have that either. What's it like at AFLW level? Yeah,
look, I think it's different from club to club, and some clubs really prioritise it. They might bring in a tackle coach or something like that, or prioritise actually learning the skill of tackling or practising the skill of tackling. I know at Collingwood we do practice the skill of tackling, and it's something that we dedicate, you know, part of the training session towards. So yeah, you'd hope every team would be doing it. It's such an important part of the game, like you said, with the duty of care. We don't want to see people going out with concussions and head injuries and things like that.
All right, well, as I mentioned, we are at the halfway point of the season, 5 rounds into a 10-round home and away season. So I thought we'd take a minute, ladies, just to take stock of what has happened so far. I want a surprise packet from each of you. Sarah, we'll start with you.
I couldn't go past Ailish Sheeran, the Richmond draftee, mature age draftee. I think she's 29. She's come in and she's had an incredible impact out of defence. It was a real area that the Tigers needed to strengthen. We didn't know much about Ailish coming into the season. She'd been playing her footy in the AFL Sydney competition. She had been a train-on player at the Giants, but an untimely ACL injury just sort of, put her behind the 8 ball a little bit. But hasn't she thrived at the top level? She's the second highest player in the competition for metres gained. And has just been tracking really, really well.
What about you, Bri? What's been your surprise packet so far in season 7?
I think for me, the Doggies as a team, I think in past seasons we probably haven't seen them be as consistent. Back in 2018 they won the premiership, and I think they won that by how well they kick the ball up the field and those contested marks. And when you can use that to your best of your ability, it can really rip teams apart in the women's game. So I think they're doing that much better this year. And again, in the previous seasons so far, they've sort of been quite COVID affected. So I think they're starting to find their consistency again. Yeah,
it's great to have the Bulldogs up and firing at the moment. And as you say, obviously last season with COVID, it really set them back. But they did beat the Adelaide Crows last season, who went on to win the premiership. So we know that their best is certainly good enough. From an individual standpoint, we have seen some terrific performances in season 7. Right now, this is the leaderboard. When we look at what is taking place for the AFLW MVP award, our experts at women's.afl have Monique Conti, Amy McDonald and Maddie Pressbarkis leading the way. When it comes to the AFLCA, though, Sarah, Georgie Pressbarkis leads the way.
Yeah, so that suspension has really thrown things open because you imagine that the AFL coaches' votes will sort of mirror somewhat the umpires' votes for the W Award, yet to be named W Award. Jazz Garner is really well positioned there to really, break open. I feel like Jazz is tracking well. She seems to be she's so close to hitting that really scary form.
I know.
Where she can tear a game open. And they do have the Swans this weekend, so Jazz could be in for a big game.
She's an absolute star. To the ladder now. And one team that I guess has surprised me, and probably I had them making the top 8, that is your Magpies, Bri, because the question mark for me heading into this season was how do they cover you, and obviously Britt Benici, who are both out with injury, but pleasantly surprised to see you right in the top 4 at the moment.
Yeah, no, strong start to the season. I think for us, we've been lucky with the depth that we've got on our list. And I knew sort of going down, same with Britta, that we did have depth on the list. So I wasn't too worried about going into this season. We've had sort of a new look midfield. We've had Ruby Slasher run through there. We've had Chloe Malloy. We've had Ash Sheridan. And they've all had quite a strong impact so far, and hopefully continue to see that. And we've also sort of flipped Ash Bryce from a defensive player and injected her into the forward line, and she's just such an excitement machine, and she brings a lot of energy and leadership up there. So, yeah, I think we're doing well. We're placed pretty well, and hopefully continue on that way.
So looking at the ladder again, it is a logjam for the race for finals. It is on, and you look from 6th all the way down to 13th. I mean, Sarah, when we look at these clubs, is there one in particular that you can see that's just outside the 8 that you think is probably going to make finals come the end of the season?
So Geelong, North and Richmond, I don't think we're overly surprised to see them up there. Maybe we didn't expect the Cats to be quite so high. The Suns' percentage is going to be a serious issue. They've got some work to do to build that up. But Essendon are the ones who are primed to make a run at the 8. Their run home, they've got Brisbane, Geelong, Sydney, Melbourne and Port Adelaide.
Oh, it's intriguing,
It's a really interesting mix. They could be 3 and 2, they could be 2 and 3, they could be 4 and 1. Who knows? But Bri, how do you see the Bombers stacking up, for the second half of the season?
Yeah, look, I think we played them recently, Collingwood, so got a pretty close look at them. But I actually really rate them. I think they've for a new expansion team and a new list that's just been put together, I think they've put some strong performances in, but haven't quite finished their opportunities. I think against us, they had more forward 50 entries than us, but just sort of didn't quite finish them off. But their chaos, the way they pressure, their contested footy, and then their ability to link up with some really strong forwards like Bonnie and Sophie Alexander up there as well. So I think, I wouldn't mind seeing them in the finals. I think it would be interesting to see them up there.
I wouldn't want to play them come finals. I think they're going to be a very tricky proposition for anyone. Speaking of the Bombers, they face a sterner test, as you mentioned. Sarah, they face the Brisbane Lions this weekend on Sunday. Of course, the Lions suffered a shock loss at the weekend against the Tigers. Sarah, I want you to break down how they got the job done, the Tigers, because none of us saw this coming.
Yeah, it's arguably one of the biggest upsets we've seen in the AFLW. It's always been so segmented, so to have a team come up and beat one of the big three is really good for the competition. This game was won and lost on defensive pressure. You know, the Lions had numerous chances in the last quarter to really seal that result. You know, it wasn't a high-scoring game at all. It was really windy. But the Tigers were so determined to not let that happen. The defensive efforts, the second efforts, 1%ers were incredible. And what it did was it really got into the Lions' heads. They started panicking. We saw Dakota Davidson, you know, she took a mark. She could have gone back and had the set shot. But such was the pressure that Dakota was like, no, we've got to play on really quickly. And Gabby Seymour there on the last line of defence was incredible.
Yeah, I mean, we don't usually see that from the Brisbane Lions, do we? Bri, I mean, how did Essendon take some lessons from what Richmond did and take it into Sunday's game against the Lions?
Yeah, look, I think it's, you know, like I sort of mentioned about Essendon before, I think they have some similar characteristics to what you just explained, you know, that pressure and that getting up in the face. And I think Brisbane, they're the type of team, if you can try and get them on the back foot early, it can really help you. If you give them that sort of run early doors, that's where you're going to be in for a hard day. So I think if they can see some learnings from the Richmond-Brisbane game, it's just get up, get in their face, pressure, and I know Essendon are good in the contested footy, so they should probably match them there.
And some great news for the Brisbane Lions, because on Wednesday the club announced that Kate Luckens will be available for selection. So if she plays on Sunday, it will be 266 days since she ruptured her ACL. That was back in round 1, season 6, so January 9. And if we calculate forward to October 2 on Sunday, that is just shy of 9 months out. Bri, it's a phenomenal recovery.
Yeah, incredible. And I think if anyone's going to do it, from what I hear from her teammates and the way Kate carries herself and goes about it, it's her. But just amazing story. I hope she goes really well, and I'm excited to watch her play.
Now, you have a little WhatsApp group between a few of you, don't you? Where
little knee club?
Yes, the knee club.
Yeah, there has been discussions, and we do sort of reach out individually to each other as well, and just sort of check in and see how each other are going. But yeah, Kate's one sort of early doors. We were chatting. We both did our knee around the same time, and yeah, really sort of bounced off each other and that sort of thing. So it's good to see her doing so well, and yeah, definitely after this show, we'll be sending her a text to say well done, because that's awesome.
I mean, you've come back from an ACL before. Talk to me about what it's like preparing for that first game back, because it's not just the physical side of things. Yep. Mentally too, I imagine it would be challenging, and there might be some anxieties around it. Can you talk us through how you felt coming back from one?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's just one of those things where, you know, you get the sort of tick off, they tell you you're good to go, and if you've got the confidence, that's great as well. But it's like you still want to just get the first game out the way, get the first game done, and then that's like the last final tick of your rehab, and then you're off, sort of thing. So it can be a little bit daunting sometimes in build up to it, but really exciting, because it's a long time since you've played a game of footy. So yeah, I'm sure Kate will feel all those things when she runs out. But yeah, it's just one of those things that all the reward for effort sort of finally comes.
Oh, it's an amazing story, and we wish Kate all the best for Sunday. Cannot wait for that game. Also looking forward to the first ever AFLW Showdown. Friday night, Adelaide Oval. It is going to be absolutely huge. The Power and the Crows set to write a new chapter in an old and storied history.
Here in South Australia, the Showdown is one of the most, most iconic kind of game day for a lot of South Australians.
We're absolutely, you know, on the right track and can show physically we can match it with anyone in this competition. Yeah, well, Port Adelaide have obviously got some fairly passionate fans, and we saw that in round 2 when they turned up in droves.
So, look, it's just going to be a great contest of two fantastic teams that are going at it, and can't wait to, share it with South Australian fans.
Steps back into trouble, wants to get onto her right. Oh, this will be absolutely brilliant.
Will the rivalry start straight away on Friday night when the ball goes up? Absolutely.
We know the rivalry in the men's game, of course. We're hoping it crosses over into AFLW, and there are storylines everywhere. We saw Ange Foley there talking about her experience, obviously a two-time premiership Crow, now a Port Adelaide player. You've got the Darrick sisters, Sarah, going head-to-head. You're interviewing them and writing a feature on them on women's.afl and the AFLW app, so make sure you check that out. And, of course, Erin Phillips, that's the big one. The move that was made off season was just massive. It made huge headlines. I'm interested to get both of your thoughts, though, on Erin and just her form at the moment, because we've had 5 games for the season so far. She's been goalless and kicked just the 2 behinds. Bri, your thoughts on where she's at? Is she playing a different role?
Yeah, look, I think, you know, with the team Erin's in at the moment, I think she's going to get a little bit more attention. I think when she was playing with Adelaide, the love was sort of spread in terms of attention, but, you know, she is their marquee and she's sort of that big name player that they've got there. So I reckon she's probably, yeah, got more attention maybe even than she would have in the past, even though, you know, being such a superstar that she is, she's always going to get that sort of attention.
Yeah, and I think what we're really starting to find is, you know, it's as you said, it's not a stronger team. So they almost need 2 Erin Phillips, because when she's up, nice. I know that'd be so good. when Erin's in attack, the ball's not necessarily coming down quite as often as it was when she was at Adelaide, who are really high inside 50 side, and so they throw Erin into the middle, and then all of a sudden, you know, the goals dry up a little bit down the other end of the field. So, you know, what's good for Erin, what's good for the team can sometimes be 2 different things. She's a champion player. She is getting, you know, towards the tail end of her career, and we do know that she's had a long history of knee injuries, and I just wonder that maybe the accumulation of games is starting to make an impact.
It's probably for the first time in a long time, 2022, that she's played so many games of football as well with the back-to-back season, so perhaps that's having an impact as well. Another game which is shaping as the match of the round is the Bulldogs and the Cats. Now, both big improvers this year. Sarah, I'm curious about this one as well, because Geelong have been quite tricky to play against this season.
Yeah, you talk to clubs who have come up against the Cats, and the first thing they always say is their pressure is outstanding, their contested work is excellent. So that's one thing that the Dogs are really going to have to focus on. I'm curious to see how the 2 midfields will match up. I feel like this is a battle that will last for the next 5 years. You know, they're 2 midfields on the rise with lots of young players in there. And this match, I feel, Bri, could have a really big shape on the top 8.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, adding to what you were saying, Sarah, as well, I think that the Cats, they have a really good ability to set up well defensively as well. But then we see the Doggies are really good at sort of controlling the ball and that kick mark sort of game. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, and whether the defensive setup from the Cats will sort of, I guess, shut that down.
And it's probably a sign towards the evolution of AFLW too, that it's not just about the star players anymore. All of a sudden it's become a bit more of a tactical battle.
Yeah, I love that. That's the big step that's been in AFLW. I think being able to train the strategy as well and having more time for that rather than focusing on skills has probably been a big reason as to why. Time now, though, for the Buzz and the D's. Well, they had some fun announcing a pregnancy during the week. This is Sammy Johnson's announcement.
On the weekend, a few of you wouldn't have known, but we're actually playing with an extra person on the field. And without further ado, Hazza, hit the next slide, mate.
Karen Paxman's face there is hilarious. And then Daisy Pearce, Sarah, I reckon she thought that they were going to cop a fine.
Yeah, she was panicked about the 19th player on the field. But, you know, props to Sammy. That's a great story to come back to AFLW level to begin with, and then big congrats on the pregnancy as well.
Amazing. And good to see a couple of Cats enjoying the men's premiership celebrations at the MCG on the weekend. You got to get that photo with Joel Selwood, of course, retiring as well during the week. And he has been such an incredible leader that we've seen across the AFL. So look at them there with that Premiership Cup, and maybe one day the AFLW Geelong Cats side will be holding that Premiership Cup up high. And finally, for the Buzz, Bri, this is a teammate of yours. Now, Ruby Schleicher, she decided that Katie Noonan's rendition of the national anthem just wasn't good enough. Check this out.
Katie, stop, I've got it.
She's a unique individual. How did you rate that performance?
Solid 3.5. Bruce, the voice break, she didn't quite have it, but she fancies herself though. I'll give her that.
Yeah, if I'm doing my best, like, Australian Idol, you know, which is back, which is pretty exciting, but yeah, my best Australian Idol judge impersonation would be, you know, points for the effort, but pitch. Pitch is the issue.
It's all about pitch. Yeah. I'm definitely team Katie Noonan. Sorry, Ruby. But I did like the hand movements when she was trying those vocal licks. Yeah. That was very creative indeed. All right, quickly before we wrap up, what are we looking forward to this weekend, Sarah?
Yeah, well, as we mentioned earlier, I think that the Dogs and the Cats are going to put up a really good showing up in Ballarat. And the Hawks and the Eagles is actually quite an intriguing game.
Oh, that's what I'm looking forward to. Another Hawks win for the weekend, hopefully. Sorry.
You've already tucked those 4 points away now.
I have. No, it's down in Frankston. Looking forward to getting down there to Skybus Stadium to watch that one. What about you, Bri? What are you looking forward to?
For me, Gold Coast Richmond, I think 8 versus 9. And, you know, the GC have a pretty strong history against the Tigers. But Tigers, I think, are on a bit of a roll this year. So I think it'll be a close game. I hope it's a close game because I'd love to see the battle.
Now, it's great to have you in to say thank you. We've got a little something from Blakeaway, some amazing pre-made meals. I absolutely love the team down at Blakeaway. So just a little voucher for you. They are one of NAB's valued customers. So a little thank you. And enjoy. Best of luck in your rehab. We can't wait for season 8 so we can see you back out there. But we look forward to watching you on the Pies bench doing what you do best as well. Sarah, good to have you. You're off to the showdown.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Looking forward to it.
Oh, cannot wait. Round 6 of AFLW is coming your way. Women's.afl and the AFLW app is the place to go for all of your footy news. We'll see you next week.